Good evening. This morning I typed few notes. I found I brought the wrong ones, which is good. So first of all, thank you to the Jimbala and others. This is my probably second time or third time meeting your group. And I am honored to giving me this opportunity to speak on importance of compassion, because we are celebrating a whole year as the year of loving kindness and compassion. I'm not here really to deliver a long talk. And also don't expect that I'm an expert on love and compassion. But what is more important is just say a few words and then you can provoke me by asking questions. Because you are from the Compassion Institute, so I'm sure that you already know a lot of things. So the problem always arises by not able to implement them. Getting theoretical knowledge is, of course, very important. It makes a big difference. But the more and more I live, the more and more I talk, the more and more I discover that most of us are doing just the talking part. And implementation, many people may have very good motivation to do so, but it is not easy, because we have this die-hard habit which is pulling us always in a different direction. As we say, negativity bias. Right? But based on a little what I read, and especially as I grow older and older, sometimes I realize, we are making our life very unnecessarily complicated in terms of how we live, in terms of what we practice. There are few things that you need. And so therefore I'm full of appreciation to this statement by the Buddha in one of his sutras, where he says, if you have one practice or quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that practice? He says, great compassion. And I vaguely remember somewhere else also the Buddha was saying that wherever there is head, you have all the senses there. Similarly, wherever you have the compassion, all other qualities will be there. Now, what is compassion? The compassion, of course, there are many different levels. Ordinary compassion, immeasurable compassion, great compassion, compassion focusing on suffering of sentient beings, compassion focusing on the impermanent nature of sentient beings, compassion focusing on the lack of inherent existence of sentient beings. These are very profound, important, deep topics which I will try to touch a little bit. But what is really important for us to think is we need to have a larger perspective, a more holistic, larger perspective. Because if we look carefully, we are basically controlled by our mind, not so much by our body. But unfortunately, we spend most of our time tending and looking after the well-being of the body, not so much about the mind, because mind is invisible, formless, colorless, shapeless. Therefore, anything that is not visible, we tend to ignore them at our own loss, at our own risk, unfortunately. So therefore, you need to develop this conviction. Because to make a long story short, the purposes of all these religious teachings from different traditions or all other things that you do is basically to get happiness. And that happiness also not for a few days, as long as possible. We want happiness as long as possible. I've asked these questions to many people, to many places, in many countries, and everybody says, I want happiness. Yes, sir. For how many days you want? Then they smile and laugh, meaning that they want happiness as long as possible. But when we sit and think, then you get that right answer, that you want happiness as long as possible. But in our daily life, hurried, rushed life, it doesn't really look like you want happiness. Forget about long-lasting happiness. It looks like you don't want even happiness. Unfortunately, this is because of ignorance. Ignorance and the situation, surrounding environment, So therefore, you see, as somebody rightly mentioned, that whether you call it compassion or loving kindness or kindness, these are, you can make philosophical differences. But as somebody correctly mentioned that love is a language, or kindness thereby is a language, which the blind can see and the deaf can hear. Everybody can appreciate it. Everybody can. Just a kind smile, just a small helping hand, in many cases transforms the life of the person with whom you come into contact. As simple as that. And I remember one of Obama's speech where he says, today the world is suffering from empathy deficit. Absolutely true. I read a number of books. Some of the books are like recent publications, where everybody is more or less mentioning that there is a shortage of supply of compassion, unfortunately. And particularly in today's world, conflict-ridden world, if you look around, the so-called leaders of the world today, for me, they are lunatics. I'm sorry to say that. Therefore, you need wisdom, and in our case, the Buddhist wisdom. Because the world leaders are now building more and more destructive weapons, including nuclear warheads. We have now over 20,000 nuclear warheads, right? To kill people. And the Buddhist teaching says, you don't have to kill people, they will die. Just when I read that from Shanti Deva, I was just dumbfounded. What a great teaching, you see. So by extension, we can say you don't have to create more suffering on other people, they are already suffering. You don't need to kill them, they are going to die sooner or later. And nobody knows, it may be tomorrow even, you see, if you think carefully. So these days I try to venture out a little bit, following the footsteps of the Buddha. Because the Buddha, after he got enlightened, when he was requested to give the teaching, he said, no, what I found is really like profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So let me do my meditation in the forest, don't disturb me. He said something like, which is really, he said this because of many reasons. One, he's saying that if you really want to practice, you need to have some kind of seriousness. And secondly, he is true in saying that what I've discovered is profound. Because he realized that the sufferings by which the world is suffering, it really needs a big surgery, big operation, not just small one. So he found that method to uproot the suffering, the problems, which is profound in the sense people are not interested in those things. The people are only interested in, small things, just like small kids, run after the toys. Even if it is broken, he-who, and go after that, that's what people are. People are everywhere now, completely distracted. I have my sympathy. To some extent, I understand we are all small babies. Even if you call yourself professor, whatever. That's why the Buddha said, my children. Rawa, many occasions he says, my children. Right? So therefore, I am not jealous. People are enjoying a little bit here and there, even after distraction. Okay, at least you are not harming anybody. You are enjoying. Okay, carry forth. But deep down, just as the Buddha told to his wife, Yashodhara. Yashodhara was a philanthropist, very good, kind-hearted woman, always helping poor people. Then Buddha said, yes, my wife, Yashodhara is a very kind lady, but I'm a little bit concerned about how she is going to remove her source of suffering, because she is helping and doing things but not doing anything to uproot the ignorance that is lying deep within herself. So that's the problem. So therefore, as I mentioned, when the Buddha did not, easily give the teaching, and then later on, after repeated request, when he started giving the teaching, the first teaching was Four Noble Truths. And out of the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, the first was teaching on the truth of the suffering, right? And when he was teaching on the truth of suffering, the first feature of the truth of suffering is impermanence, including death. So he was saying that unless you have a clear understanding of the imminence of death, the transient human life, you will never make a move. You will only plan to stay here. And I find it in my own case, Now even at this old age, you go around, go to a mall or shop, now you don't need anything, but still, this one is good. You see, you keep on accumulating. There's the problem, you see. There's the really problem. So therefore, following his footsteps, these days I have started saying, look, we have over 8 billion human population right now. All this over 8 billion human population are dead after 100 years counting from today. For some people it will be shocking. Once I was I was for a short sojourn in Canada, and in a university, the Vancouver, British Columbia University. So around the end of my stay, some of the students, came to me and said, "Can you introduce something about you or give a short talk?" I said, "Yes, no problem." And then I said, the topic of my talk will be shock therapy. Because it will be shocking in the initial stage. But it will be, turn into very therapeutic in the long run. Because you need to talk about these bitter truths. Okay, so I'm saying, counting from today in 100 years, all this over 800 billion human population dead. By saying this, what am I saying? I'm not unnecessarily threatening them, making their life, unhappy, things like that. But I'm simply saying, just pay attention to this. This is the truth. I'm not inventing it. So when I say 100 years, this is a general statement. But then in your own case, in my own case, I may live, if I'm lucky, another 10 years. Or more lucky than maybe 20 years. That's it. So by thinking like that, then that will, provoke you into thinking that, I've already spent so many years, now what should I do? So I've started thinking about that. Then I realized, you must be living for certain principles, or you must have discovered certain principles in life. This is so important. It should continue based on your life and study and experience. You must have those things. So those things must be transmitted to the younger generation. Must be taught to the younger generation. If you're able to do that, even if you die, no regret. Because even if you live, that is what you're going to do. You see, so it is really not so much, giving buildings and money and not things like that. People are suffering because of not knowing how to live, how to be happy, right? So therefore, His Holiness says, out of his 4 great commitments, the first commitment was secular ethics, universal ethics, ethics that is applicable to everybody. Ethics that comes from bottom up, not top down. If I smile at you, you smile at me, this is good. Based on such day-to-day personal life's experience, those good things must be made available to everybody, must be lived. So therefore, in order to do that, when we teach the secular ethics, we emphasize on 3 points: awareness, compassion, and then engagement. And to the epithet that we give to the Buddha is one fully awake, fully alert, fully aware. So in our case also, much of the stupid, wrong things that we do is lack of awareness, lack of knowledge of the truth, the reality. So therefore it is important to understand the reality, including impermanence, death, cause-effect relationship that is so much talked about in Buddhism. It's very, very important, right? That awareness must be there. based on that awareness, you will naturally develop compassion. Of course, there are two lines of thinking. There are some, teachers who say that if you want to develop compassion, all you need to do is stop doing the negative things. That also is a very interesting way of thinking. It says you are full of energy. And that energy is primarily for doing good things. You are full of energy, but you are dissipating that energy into anger and into jealousy, into hatred. And then at the end you have no energy left for compassion and love and things like that. So therefore stop doing all those. That also makes a very interesting case. Then the Buddhist way of cultivating compassion is meditation. Meditation basically means getting habituated with the good ways of life, good ways of thinking, good qualities. Get habituated, do it regularly. And then see the law of nature. You see, if you really, really take time, see the law of nature, the one interesting that you will find is the law of nature does not make discrimination. Whether you are an American or a Chinese or Russian, it does not make discrimination. If there is a tsunami, it will affect everybody. If there is a COVID-19, it will affect everybody, as we have seen. If there is an earthquake, it will shake everybody. It will not say, I'll shake only the Chinese and not the Americans or things like that. And the sun shines over everybody. This is so fantastic. Therefore, these days, I've started saying that I pay homage to the law of nature. Really. Because it is so comforting. If you understand law of nature, then the criminals, the miscreants, some of the stupid leaders, their days are numbered. Thank you, Lord, law of nature. Because they plan to live. They change the constitution, live forever, basking in the wealth looted from people. But they can't do this because of law of nature. Right? So law of nature does not make discrimination. And who is making discrimination? The stupid human beings, ignorant human beings, narrow-minded human beings. On small grounds, because your skin is white, you are better. Your skin is black, you are not so good. Okay, you are tall, you are good. You are short, not so good. All kind of discrimination. Because narrow-minded thinking focuses only on divisions, how to divide differences. But if you develop a larger perspective in accordance with the law of nature, there's no room for discrimination. So one of the two pillars of teaching secular ethics is to realize that everybody wants happiness and nobody wants suffering. And everybody has the right to have happiness and has the right to shun suffering. That's the pillar of teaching secular ethics. So this is applicable to all of us, I mean, life is, as I already mentioned, life is so short. There's no guarantee you will be alive tomorrow. There's 100% no guarantee. So enjoy today. Enjoy today means not in a stupid sense, but be happy. And that happiness, that feeling of security, comes from inner qualities like loving kindness and compassion. If you read the sutra, there are so many quotations saying that if you genuinely practice compassion, not just talking, if genuinely practice compassion and loving kindness, poison cannot harm you, enemy cannot harm you. So many hundred qualities mentioned there. But this also clearly shows hardly any of us are able to live like that, you see. And this also reminded me a stanza from one of the prayer. Du di chambe pungi chongwa tan, dukun chambe karse. Ta du chamba namsum kompete. Du di chambe pungi chongwa tan, dukun chambe tu ye chongse, jawa champungu putrashi. There is a prayer which says, because of having meditated on 3 types of loving kindness, you can also call it 3 types of compassion. Because of repeatedly meditated on 3 types of loving kindness, one is able to conquer the negative force through the force of loving kindness. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama is a living example. I mean, people like you, hundreds and thousands of people are flocking to him. He's the source of inspiration, source of peace, source of happiness, just looking at him, because he completely dedicated his life for love, for compassion. And that changes the heart of the people. That conquers the heart of the people, not Putin or any other leaders. You see, that is the human way. That's the human way. And therefore, I'm so glad that you have this Institute for Compassion, which is need of the time, need of the time. And the only thing that we need to realize is that compassion is not a sign of weakness. Non-violence is not a sign of weakness. Many people, because of not properly understanding compassion and loving kindness, these days in big hospitals we have nurses and doctors suffering from, suffering from empathy burnout or compassion burnout or things like that, because their so-called practice of compassion is not supported by wisdom. So these two must go together. Compassion is, you don't think compassion will make you a doormat. Actually, if you have compassion, it gives you so much strength, so much energy, so much love, that everything that you see or you hear, you come into contact, you will feel comfortable because your heart is open. Now, if you don't have these inner qualities, whoever you come into contact, then you immediately start asking questions. Is this the right person to talk to? Not the right person to talk to? You start judging. Judgment will not be there. Because you don't have to judge. You know that whoever they are all ordinary sentient beings. They all have suffering. They all have problems. Right? So as His Holiness says, it opens your inner door. It opens your inner door. And then if you think carefully, this reminded me a very interesting line of teaching by the 7th Dalai Lama. Thome kyesum pomo sundala tejang chaluk namjur photup chechung samado duge mesi jeba nyam dan dobe kenyam toji namji nangse de jowa. So loosely translated, the 7th Dalai Lama is a great writer, a great teacher. And he says, to whomever you look, the so-called high ones and the low ones, the men, the women, the monk, the nun, to whomever you look, the only difference you see is their costume, their manner, their expression. This is the, superficial difference. But underneath, everybody has this or that problem, one or the other problem. So we are of equal fate in that line, you see. And His Holiness always says, I feel more compassion to the so-called rich people than the poor people. Because poor people, they are already fallen. Probably there's less jealousy, less hatred, But the so-called rich and powerful people, they are completely ignorant. They think now that the world is theirs. So there is a competition, there is a jealousy, and you have no idea. And I've seen myself when I was working with His Holiness, many of these celebrities, they come to see His Holiness when they have a problem. So normally they think everything is okay. It's not okay. Right? So therefore the point that I'm making is, if you look at the suffering nature of sentient beings, if you look at their transient, impermanent nature, if you look at their true reality, that there is no long-lasting identity and things like that, naturally you will develop that compassion. Nobody wants to suffer, but people are suffering because ignorance. They expect something but do something different. There is a discrepancy between what you want to do and what you are doing. So unnecessary, His Holiness calls it unnecessary suffering. His Holiness talks about two kinds of suffering. One, natural disaster. Another, man-made disaster. And His Holiness says, at least this man-made disaster or suffering is unnecessary suffering. It is created by us, so we should be able to eliminate it. So therefore I respect all of you who are dedicated in this line. However much you are able to practice is a different question, but at least you are in that right direction. Right direction. Believe me, I'm not very young now. I have some experience. Believe me, you are absolutely on the right direction. So consider yourself lucky. Because this inner treasure that you bring with you, wherever you go, it will support you. Compassion, love, patience, whatever you have, wherever you go, it will support you. The other things, friends, relatives, money, we do need, we are ordinary people, but they are, to be honest, not very reliable. Not because they are all bad, not because they are necessarily bad, but because there is a limitation they can do. If your own thinking is wrong, misplaced, then they cannot enter into your brain and think and plan, create happiness in your mind, right? So therefore, one of the Buddhist teachers, he said, there's nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Even the Buddhas cannot do that. And similarly, there is nobody, your worst enemy, there's nobody who can catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness, your suffering is in your hand. Therefore, do not cheat yourself. So that means nobody cheats oneself intentionally, but because of lack of knowledge, we are cheating all the time and going in the wrong place. So therefore, Buddha summarized his teaching into 3 points. Morality as the foundation. Then concentrate on the good things. Don't let your mind distracted. This is so important, especially in today's world. The environment is so enticing and so, inviting that you are compelled. You are compelled to get distracted today, tomorrow. Complete the whole life get distracted. There was one in Tibet. There was one teacher and a student. And the teacher was a little bit doubtful about whether the student is studying properly or not. He said, "Are you studying?" I said, "Yes, sir, I'm studying." "When do you find time to study?" "In the night you sleep. In the day you you distracted. Or distracted to many things. So when do you find time?" We are distracted because we don't know the importance of concentrating on compassion, love, and other important things. You may just say, "Oh, they are important," but deep down you don't have this delight. It's not like eating the chocolate, Right? So therefore you'll say, "Okay, good, okay, next time, when I come to Dharamsala, I'll do a little bit of meditation," that's all, you see. But therefore, especially in the initial stage, I'm not saying, you're in the initial stage, but what I'm saying is, in general, that in the initial stage, you need to really make time and make some effort. And through that effort, when you see the importance of those qualities, you will be pulled into that, and you will be able to practice and live into that. Because there's nothing, that can give you more joy, more happiness than that. So your friend, your tutor, whatever you call it, they are your inner qualities. The others will go. And this inner qualities, according to Buddhism, once you have cultivated it, it will come with you for many lives to come. Many lives to come. In Buddhism, we use the term called living the positive imprint. So that's a little bit difficult for me to understand. But then later now I'm saying, okay, imprint basically means habit. Form a habit, repeatedly do it, and that habit will continue. Just as today we are more or less continuing with bad habit, so this will be replaced by good habit. And Tsongkhapa says this so eloquently in his Stages of the Path, where he says, you are controlled by your mind. Your mind is controlled predominantly by negative emotions. Therefore you are suffering. Therefore now meditation means you make your mind habituated with good ways of life. Positive qualities, including compassion, love, and so forth. Right? So I think I should stop here. Ask some questions, if you have.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I actually loved everything you said. You took me back to my days as a student of my teacher. Her name was Reena Sarkar. And she was of the Theravada Buddhist lineage. And everything you've said is so important to me personally. But I've become an absolute infidel when it comes to practice. You know, the whole idea of feeling that peace when I used to meditate. Because I've gone into the real world. And in fact, I don't even care about happiness anymore. My whole life has been dedicated to impact for the last 10 years. Completely surrendered the idea of happiness. For me, meaning, purpose, impact. I tried to make the impossible possible with you guys also in 2013. Failed, but tried again in 2019. Semi-succeeded. Now again, I want to do the same because I really believe in your work. I've been very closely associated by default to the Buddhist tradition because I'm from here. It's my first time coming home. So it's very special for me personally speaking. And this is the second time I've seen Jumpa and His Holiness. How can someone like me serve you, who's already so powerful and great? You know, I'd love to be of service to this community. In my own homeland, in Kangra and Dharamshala, I would be very honored to be able to bring my gifts to this place. In fact, I told my parents, how can we not have a home in our own motherland? We have homes in Delhi, in Madras, and everywhere else. So I'm just curious for me personally, as well as, I guess, the Sangha, how can we be of support to an extraordinary institution like this? It's very important to me personally. I really want to be of service.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, the best way of supporting any institution is first to realize whether that the institution is promoting peace or not peace, compassion or not, love or not. So any activity, anybody is sincerely, genuinely promoting loving kindness, compassion, harmony, friendship, those institutions must be supported.
Yes, I agree. The last decade, I've supported something called 15 years, called the United Nations. Stands for peace.
Yes.
But it's a paradox within the confines of the UN. It doesn't embody peace and compassion the way you guys do. Right? So for something I would love to do with all of you is understand how I can bring that to New York City.
No, for example, like starting from this year, wherever you want to start it, you can say, okay, I'm coming up with this plan to promote compassion, to promote love. So that basically means educating more younger generation about the need to have a holistic, view of everything. And then, as I always say, help them develop a harmonious development of head and heart. So therefore, it is really investing in the younger generation, the good qualities. And now, luckily, there are so many teachings, recorded teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and Tibetan Jimbala is also available. And so many of you must be, already expert on that. So start some project where you can invest for the younger generation to produce more like His Holiness Dalai Lama or more like the Buddha. It's not easy, but even if you're able to nurture and bring up 2-3 young people with a kind heart, that is a big investment which will last a long, long time for many generations to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your very wise words. Some of us are here bringing innovation and technology and looking at what we can do to help bring more of the compassionate teachings of His Holiness and this incredible community out into the world. And I work with people who have been the big pioneers of artificial intelligence and what's coming. And one of the questions that I have is, do you believe, and does His Holiness believe that artificial intelligence, as it's getting more and more of a higher level of intelligence, not what's out there today, Do you believe that that will help bring more compassion to humanity if done in a compassionate way
No,
for the benefit of society?
I
and the
hardly
planet?
know anything about artificial intelligence. But my take, given my exposure to technology and science, and my reading about all the technological developments right from the Industrial Revolution and so forth, my summary point that I want to make is, at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, it will be the human beings who will manipulate, including artificial intelligence. So for what purpose? In Buddhism we say, if it is, for example, religion by itself is not necessarily good or bad. It is how it is used by people. So similarly, technology, similarly, artificial intelligence. So my fear, which may be misplaced, but my fear is sometimes I do think that it's really like letting an innocent child put on the seat of a rocket.
Yeah.
It's very, for me, a little bit risky. Because you may be extremely intelligent in coming up with this artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence, general artificial intelligence, spatial artificial, so many categories are there, whatever it is. But you are intelligent. But I really want to question, do you have the wisdom also? So today, in every field, what is really lacking is wisdom.
I agree.
What is available in plenty is information. Information also, more than 80-90% are junk information, as we all know. Right? Then based on that information, you get a little bit of knowledge. And knowledge is not wisdom. As somebody clearly said, you read all the books about how to build a ship. That is information. But that doesn't mean you are able to build a ship. Then based on that information, you get some knowledge, and based on that knowledge, you're able to build the ship. That's a good progress. But still, you need wisdom to make sure that the ship does not sink.
Yeah.
Right? So that is my concern, big concern. Because like small kids, we are easily distracted. We are easily distracted by glamorous things, shiny objects, as I already hinted, completely distracted. And you will get more distracted. And now you're just sitting here, you can use that tool and spend one night in Lhasa, which is not real, but you get that sense, you see. So for me, a little bit alarming.
For me as well, by the
To the
way.
Jimbal will remember this quotation from Abhidharma. Traje pangwa mayinda, yundi nyevarande vata, tsuji mayi jene, nyomo jundu sangwa. So that beautiful quotation says, we have not removed the afflictive emotions, including those who invented artificial intelligence. They have afflictive emotions, anger, jealousy, everything is there. So in terms of your inner state, you have not removed the negative emotions. Then the object is there. The Mercedes car is there. The beautiful woman is standing there. So many attractive things are standing there. Then your mind is also not healthy. The improper way of engagement is also there. So you are ready to go with all the afflictive emotions. It's very risky, but that needs I don't know how to. It's not an easy task, but we need to really spread this information. How are you going to use it? For me, even on a very superficial level, you are talking so much about artificial intelligence when you're not able to nurture this genuine intelligence. right?
Yeah.
So the question is, as I mentioned, you are not able to explore all these hidden gems and jewels within you, and you are completely carried away by this shiny objects. Wow. So at the end of the day, it's really like pulling each other for me. But of course, just like religion, artificial intelligence, it depends how you use it. Yeah.
Geshe, thank you. So I work with Compassion Institute, and my work is to support healthcare. And you mentioned that healthcare has burnout and lots of suffering.
Yes.
But these are very compassionate people already.
Yeah.
And you said their suffering and their burnout is a result of compassion without wisdom.
Yeah.
Can you say more about what kind of wisdom is helpful
Yeah,
for that?
just this morning, I received a letter from somebody saying that His Holiness, she met His Holiness recently, and she said, use more reason, more logic, more wisdom. Don't become too much emotion. Don't develop too much emotion. Then he said, "Isn't compassion an emotion?" She asked this question. I'm here to answer this, but I'll answer it for you. So, with wisdom, you will be able to know how much you can do. I'm not talking about the deeper aspects of emptiness and things like that. I'm simply saying you will be able to, take a realistic step. The realistic step is you have some kind of compassion, which is wonderful, but still you are not Buddha. You also get tired. You also need rest. And in fact, if you're really concerned about well-being of other people, you need to live long. You need to remain healthy. So if you don't take care of yourself, in a way, you're not taking care of others. So taking care of oneself is taking care of others. Taking care of others is taking care of yourself. So therefore, you should know when to say yes, when to say no, when to take rest, when to work. Then you will always be fine. You see? So some people, I know in the West you're very professional. So in the past few days, you are very committed. You work very hard. Then you meet all these sick and suffering people, which is not easy to deal with. Then you start suffering, and many people even lose their job. That is because you are not realistic, and you need to remember that removing if removing suffering is so easy, Buddha should have done this long before. His Holiness Dalai Lama should have done this long before. That doesn't mean you cannot reduce it, you cannot help, but you can help. But how much you can help is not how much you work hard, it also depends on the patient, the other person. You see, the interdependent origination. So you have to be realistic. Yeah.
One question I had was, and thank you, Geshe Lhakdor, so happy to be here with you, and it's such a pleasure, and I know that was really special for everybody. If there's two things, and we're in a very polarized world, especially in the US and in the West, and we talk about having compassion for all beings, but there's a lot of violence going on, a lot of conflict, both internally and externally, and we're taught to have compassion for all sentient beings. My first question is, what's one piece of advice for everyone and the world in terms of how do you have compassion for people that are clearly hurting you, or I think in Buddhism I've read the word opponent. I don't necessarily look at it like opponent, but for knowing that that's number one. And then
let me answer this.
Please.
Actually, in the Buddhist teaching it says you should have more compassion for such people. You don't need much compassion for His Holiness. You need more compassion for people who create suffering, who create problems. Because not necessarily they are enjoying doing those things, but because they are ignorant. They don't know. that it's not good for them, good for others. So therefore you should have more compassion. But that does not mean that by developing compassion you should become weak. Compassion and non-violence is a source of strength, not weakness. So therefore you should, deep down in your heart, you should really be compassionate, but take a strong, firm stand. Be strong. Otherwise you are, giving opportunity for the wrongdoers. Okay?
Thank you. My second question is, if there's one practice, like a compassion practice, or like if there was one thing that either you do or that you could like leave with this group to do that would help them cultivate more compassion, like what would that be?
As I mentioned earlier, which you may not like to hear, we are all going to die. This is very powerful for me. When I'm going to see you next time, not going to see you, not so sure. So this is the opportunity to show love, show compassion, be nice. So that realization must be there. Yeah.
Just
Thank
in
you.
the interest of time, we have limited time and a number of things to do.
Yeah.
Geshe-la, we would love to be able to see the archives, which is the
Yes, please.
source of all of this.
Yeah.
But, I think maybe we'll kind of need to move
Yeah.
to that. But Geshe-la, on behalf of everybody at Compassion Institute, all of these people who've come together and kind of expressed their commitment to this holiness, this
Wonderful.
vision of compassion. Thank you so much for
Wonderful.
your
Wonderful.
time and sharing your wisdom with us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
One final question.
Yeah.
Realization that we're all going to die, the urgency of being happy now. How do you explain that to a 5-year-old child?
Uh-huh.
How do you explain that to a child? Because a child understands incompletely what death is. Their life is just starting. They understand that mommy and daddy won't be here.
No.
How do you explain it to a child?
No. For small kids, no lecturing. Yourself should be an example. As you teach according to the age. You can't teach a child saying, "Oh, your mother is going to die." No. Of course, of course. But when they mature, when they grow up, then gradually you can teach those things. But in the initial stage, even on the positive side, not so much teaching. It's your example. Because these small kids, they are very clever. They are watching every bit that you are doing. So they imbibe all those good qualities. How can you hope to bring a good child in a family where the husband and wife are fighting all the time, So it's your example.